All right, strap in, because we're diving deep into Rick and Morty today. And let me tell you, you've clearly been putting in the work, haven't you? I mean, wiki deep dives, interviews, even chat log analysis. That's some serious dedication right there.
Yeah, you're definitely a fan who gets what makes this show tick. It's not just the crazy adventures and all the sci-fi stuff, right? It's the stuff hiding beneath the surface. That's what makes it really fascinating.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to do today. Pull all those threads together. You know, we've got clips, fan theories, even insights from another super fan like yourself, of course. So what surprising takeaways can we uncover? Who knows?
Well, let's start with something I'm sure you're familiar with. That classic Rick and Morty blend of humor and darkness. You know, remember that clip from Screen Culture where Rick lays out his view on love?
Oh, you mean the one where he calls it a chemical reaction? The one that leads to failing marriages? Ha ha! Yeah, that's peak Rick right there. Always ready with a dose of cynicism.
Right. But here's the thing. Is he actually right? I mean, we laugh at his bleak outlook, but is there a sliver of truth in there? Like, is the show kind of poking us, asking us to think about love? You know?
Yeah.
Is it really as simple as we think it is?
That's a good point. And this is where things get really interesting, I think. We've got another clip, this one from Bad Memories, where Morty calls Rick out, saying that even his bad memories, they prove he's authentic.
Now, that's a fascinating contrast, isn't it? On the one hand, you've got Rick and his detached nothing matters attitude, but then he accepts Morty's point, you know, the value of even the negative experiences. Does that suggest maybe there's a softer side to Rick, or is it just him being pragmatic?
Yeah, it's like he gets that real life, even with all the mess, it has a weight to it. Those fake happy memories, it just can't match that. What do you think? I mean, does this change how you see Rick's whole nihilistic philosophy?
I think it definitely adds another layer to it, you know? Maybe Rick's not as heartless as he wants us to believe. Maybe deep down he values connection and experience, even if he has a really messed up way of showing it.
Okay, let's switch gears for a sec to something that has the entire Rick and Morty fandom buzzing. The mystery of Kyle. You've probably seen this fan theory. It all stems from that one line where Mr. Nimbus mentions Rick's former sidekick, Kyle.
Oh, yeah. Kyle, the name that launched 1,000 theories. Like a single loose thread that's threatening to unravel Rick's entire past, you know?
Yeah.
Could this be a clue for something we'll see later on? And does it change how we view Rick and Morty's dynamic, knowing there might have been someone else who shared that bond with Rick?
And this ties in perfectly with something you're clearly interested in, the multiverse. All those wiki deep dives and analyses, you're fascinated by the possibilities.
Yeah.
So could Kyle be from another dimension? What happened to him? Did something go wrong? Something that made Rick who he is today?
Right. It's like the writers dropped a bomb and then just walked away, leaving us to pick up the pieces. What's fascinating is that this one name, Kyle, it sparked so much speculation and creativity in the fandom. It's really a testament to the power of a good mystery, especially in a universe as vast as Rick and Morty.
Okay, hold on tight, because we're going deep into a Rick and Morty paradox.
Yeah.
Remember that scene from Bad Memories where Morty realizes the parasites are only making good memories? Hilarious, right? But also kind of disturbing when you really think about it.
That's the brilliance of Rick and Morty, though. It takes a simple idea, these cute little parasites, and it just twists it into something that makes you question the very nature of happiness and memory. Like, if we could just erase all our bad memories, would we be happier?
That's a question philosophers have been trying to answer forever. It makes you wonder, right? Are our memories, even the bad ones, a part of what makes us who we are?
Exactly. And the episode doesn't give us any easy answers. It just throws this crazy concept at us and lets us figure it out. And I think that's what resonates with you. You've shown with your deep dives that you're not just looking for surface level stuff. You want something to think about.
Now, speaking of thinking deeply about Rick and Morty, let's talk about someone who's on the same wavelength. GeorgeTheGamer. He's a content creator who's really dedicated to exploring the show, but not just summarizing plots, you know. He dives into the bigger themes, existentialism, free will, all that heavy stuff that makes Rick and Morty more than just a cartoon.
What's great about GeorgeTheGamer is that he's not just talking at you. You know, he's building a community, getting people involved. He's got polls, Q&As. He's even planning to build a Rick and Morty world in Minecraft, which is pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, it's like he's saying, hey, let's geek out about this together. And that's what makes fandom so much fun, right? It's about sharing your passion with other people and seeing what crazy, brilliant, or just plain bizarre interpretations they come up with.
It really is. And it's that shared passion that takes a show from just, entertainment to a full-blown cultural phenomenon. And Rick and Morty has definitely reached that level, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And George the Gamer, he taps right into that. It's like he's saying, hey, I'm just as obsessed with this show as you are, so let's break it down together.
It kind of reminds me of something we talked about earlier, about Rick's nihilism.
Oh, yeah, right. That ever-present darkness in Rick's worldview. We talked about that quote about love being just a chemical reaction. But there are so many other moments where Rick's basically like, nothing matters.
Totally. Like in that Screen Culture clip, when he compares the universe to an uncaring animal.
Yeah.
It's dark, for sure, but it also feels, I don't know, kind of liberating in a way. If nothing really matters, then maybe we can just make our own meaning. That's an interesting take. And it goes back to what we were saying about Rick being such a complex character. He's this genius who seems to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
But he's also clearly deeply unhappy. Maybe his nihilism isn't really about a lack of belief, but more about a rejection of all the systems that try to force meaning on us.
I see what you mean. Like he's saying, forget religion, forget society's expectations. I'm making my own rules. But of course, that leads to a lot of chaos and destruction, right? Both for himself and everyone around him.
Exactly. And that's what makes Rick and Morty so interesting. It doesn't just glorify nihilism. It explores the potential downsides, too.
Yeah, like the show is saying, hey, this way of thinking about the world might seem appealing, but don't forget, there's a price to pay.
Right, and speaking of price, we can't forget about the impact Rick's actions have on Morty. I mean, they have this crazy bond, but it's also super toxic sometimes, Morty's constantly getting pulled into these dangerous situations, and it's got to be taking a toll on him.
For sure. Remember that episode where Morty has to get his memories wiped? Because they're so messed up. That was some heady stuff. It makes you wonder if Rick's really just using Morty. Like, is Morty just a pawn in Rick's game?
It's a big question. A lot of fans, GeorgeTheGamer included, have been debating this, Is Rick genuinely trying to protect Morty? Or is he just manipulating him? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I don't think there's an easy answer. But what's cool is that the show doesn't shy away from those darker sides of their relationship. It's not all just wacky adventures, right? There's a real sense of danger and emotional vulnerability.
Absolutely. And that vulnerability is what makes Rick and Morty so relatable. I think we see ourselves in those characters, even if they're flawed and messy.
Totally. And it's not just Rick and Morty, right? The whole Smith family is a complete mess. But there's also a lot of love there and loyalty, even if it's hidden under sarcasm and resentment.
Yeah, it's like a twisted mirror to a real family. They fight, they bicker, they drive each other insane. But they're always there for each other. At least most of them are poor Jerry, right?
Yeah, poor Jerry. He's the ultimate punching bag. But even Jerry has his moments. He represents that normalcy that Rick has totally rejected, but maybe also kind of secretly envies.
That's a good point. It's like Jerry's basic desires. A steady job, a loving family, a sense of belonging. Those are things Rick has pushed away to chase knowledge and freedom. But maybe, just maybe, he misses them a little.
It's that complexity that makes Rick and Morty so great. There are no easy answers, right? We get these complicated characters, crazy situations, and then we get to draw our own conclusions.
Exactly. It encourages discussion, debate, theories. It's like one giant puzzle that we're all trying to solve together.
And that's where people like George the Gamer are so important. They create these spaces where fans can connect, share ideas, and really dissect the show.
Yeah.
Like a massive brain, all working together to figure out this crazy show. And it's not always about getting the right answer. It's about the process of figuring it out, the exploration, the joy of geeking out with other people.
Exactly. And speaking of geeking out, let's talk about the visual side of Rick and Morty. I mean, the style is so distinct you can spot it anywhere.
Yeah, it's like they took classic sci-fi and mixed it with psychedelics and absurdist humor,
Right. The animation's simple but really expressive. The characters are so memorable. And the backgrounds, they can be incredibly detailed and beautiful.
And they're not afraid to go full-on weird either. Think about the interdimensional cable episodes. They just throw logic out the window and embrace pure chaos.
Like, hey, here's a peek into the infinite multiverse, and it's going to be strange, disturbing, and hilarious all at once.
And it works. That's part of what makes Rick and Morty so unique. It's not just about the story or the characters. It's about the whole visual experience.
And it's not just the animation itself, right? It's the way they use the camera, the pacing, the editing. It all builds this sense of excitement and energy, even in the quiet scenes.
Yeah, like those crazy action sequences where Rick and Morty are fighting aliens or escaping from a collapsing dimension. It all gets so kinetic and energetic, mirroring the chaos of the scene.
Exactly. It's like watching a sci-fi action movie, but with that added absurdity and humor that you only get from animation.
And that's another reason why Rick and Morty is so successful. It blends different genres so seamlessly.
Yeah.
You get sci-fi, comedy, horror, even some philosophical ideas.
It doesn't fit neatly into any one box. And that's probably why so many people love it. There's something for everyone, no matter what you're into.
Speaking of things people are into, I know you're a big Rick and Morty gamer, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There have been some great games that capture the feel of the show perfectly. And of course, who could forget George the Gamer's plan to build a Rick and Morty world in Minecraft?
Oh man, that's going to be epic. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see what he comes up with. And it feels like the possibilities are endless, just like the multiverse itself.
That's the thing about Rick and Morty, right? Even after all these seasons, there's always something new to discover, something to make you laugh, something to make you think.
And they're not afraid to take risks, to try new things, to really push the limits of what animation can do.
Totally. Like with the anthology episodes, Interdimensional Cable, for example, or the meta-narrative ones like the Ricklantis mix-up, they're always breaking the fourth wall, messing with our expectations, keeping us on our toes.
It's like they're saying, we're not just going to give you the same old stuff. We're going to challenge you, surprise you, and maybe even make you a little uncomfortable.
And that's what makes it so rewarding to watch, to analyze, to discuss. You know, it's not just passive entertainment. It's actively engaging with this world that's constantly changing and growing.
And speaking of changing and growing, let's talk about some of the fan theories around Rick and Morty.
Ah, yes. The fan theories. Rick and Morty fans are some of the most dedicated and creative out there. They've come up with some really wild ideas.
Some of them are so well thought out, you almost believe they're part of the actual show.
Right, like the one about Rick actually being Morty from the future, or the theory about evil Morty being a Rick who lost his Morty.
Yeah, those are classics. And then there are the ones that are just completely out there. Like the one where Mr. Poopy Butthole is this cosmic being who's controlling Rick and Morty for his own entertainment.
Ha ha. Okay, maybe that one's a little far-fetched, but you never know, right? With Rick and Morty, anything is possible.
Exactly. That's what's so great about being a fan. You can speculate, come up with theories, and debate the deeper meaning and hidden clues. It's all part of the fun.
It's like this giant puzzle box we're all working on together. And even if we never find all the answers, the journey itself is pretty amazing.
And that's where content creators like George the Gamer come in, right?
Mhm.
They give fans this platform to share their ideas, their theories, their love for the show.
Exactly. They take these really complex ideas and make them accessible and entertaining. They encourage us to think critically about the show, to go deeper than the surface level.
They're saying, hey, this show is more than just mindless fun. There's some real depth here, and it's worth exploring. And that's what's so cool about the Rick and Morty fandom, right? Is this community of people who are so passionate and engaged. They're always finding new ways to connect with the show.
It's like a giant hive mind, always buzzing with new theories and interpretations,
Yeah.
creative stuff. And, that brings us to something we haven't really touched on yet, the show's amazing voice cast.
Oh, yeah. The voices are so iconic. Justin Roiland as Rick and Morty, pure genius. I mean, he gives each character such a distinct personality. And he's doing both of them.
It's crazy how he can go from Rick's, cynical rambling to Morty's, nervous stammering. It's so seamless.
Yeah.
And the rest of the cast is fantastic, too. Chris Parnell is Jerry. Spencer Grammer is Summer, Sarah Chalk is Beth. They're all so good.
And don't forget about the guest stars. They've had some incredible actors on the show. John Oliver, Werner Herzog, even Susan Sarandon.
It's like a Hollywood A-list right there. It adds a whole other level of quality to a show that's already so good.
Speaking of quality, let's go back to the writing for a minute.
Yeah.
The dialogue is so sharp, so witty, it's so quotable.
Oh, yeah. You can practically feel the energy in the writer's room, They're always coming up with new catchphrases, new jokes, and they're always finding new ways to surprise us.
And they're not afraid to experiment with the storytelling either.
Yeah.
Like with those anthology episodes, Interdimensional Cable, or the meta-narrative ones like the Ricklantis mix-up.
Right. They're always pushing boundaries, always trying something new. It's what keeps Rick and Morty so unpredictable and fun to watch.
And let's not forget about the music. I mean, the theme song is iconic, and the score is always perfectly matched to the mood of each scene.
And they even have original songs in some episodes. Remember Get Swifty from season 2.
Oh man, classic. Yeah, and who could forget Tiny Rick?
Oh, Tiny Rick. That was one of the weirdest, funniest episodes ever.
So much weirdness in just one episode.
That's what I love about Rick and Morty, though. It can be heartwarming, heartbreaking, and totally crazy, all in the span of like 5 minutes.
It's a real emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't want it any other way.
Right. And that's what makes it so rewarding to watch and discuss and analyze, you know?
Totally. Speaking of discussions, let's give a shout out to the Rick and Morty subreddit.
Oh, yeah, the subreddit. It's a goldmine of fan art, memes, theories, you name it.
It's the perfect place to connect with other fans and just geek out about the show.
And it's a great place for content creators like GeorgeTheGamer to get ideas. He finds a lot of inspiration for his videos and podcasts from the subreddit.
It's a real community effort. You know, and it just shows how Rick and Morty has become more than just a TV show. It's a whole cultural phenomenon.
It sparked conversations about everything from science to philosophy to the meaning of life.
And it's done all that while making us laugh.
Right. And isn't that the most important thing? In a world that can be so dark and overwhelming, Rick and Morty reminds us to embrace the absurdity, to question things, to be curious.
You know, it's funny, we've talked about so much. Rick's nihilism, fan theories, the creative brilliance of the show. But I think the most important thing is the passion. The passion you have for understanding this show, the passion of the creators, and the passion of this incredible Rick and Morty community.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that even a show about a cynical old scientist and his grandson can create real connections and inspire a sense of wonder.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, maybe that's the biggest takeaway from Rick and Morty. It's a show that encourages us to think, to laugh, to just embrace the weirdness of it all, you know?
And hey, who knows? Maybe somewhere out in the multiverse, there's a version of us having this exact conversation, but with Plumbus-shaped microphones.
Now that's an image. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep theorizing, and remember, wubba lubba dub dub.